welcome back to the Breaker Bros, and this is our instant reaction to the Bengals 48-10 loss to the Vikings. Biggest, I guess, deficit in Bengals history.
That's saying a lot, right?
Yeah, it is. It's
That's amazing.
it just seemed like the Bengals were, I guess, kind of shell-shocked or something. I don't know.
I don't know if you celebrate things like that, but it's never been this bad, so I guess it's got to get better, right?
It can only get better.
We hope.
Yeah, I guess that's
statistically it should get better. However, it's not a certainty.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird game because, I mean, it didn't start out good because it felt like the Vikings opening drive, they kind of ran down the field. I think they had like a few penalties early. It seems to be a theme with the defense is they tend to let the offense off the hook.
Yeah.
But I mean, outside of that, I mean, obviously it ended up being 48-10, but I would say through most of like the first half.
Is 48-10 bad?
Well, I'm just saying from the defense perspective, they seem to be playing decent throughout most of the game because they were getting sacks in the first half. But then it was just when you have two different, I guess, a pick six and then a fumble return for a touchdown. Because, the first pick six was pretty bad because they were already down 7. And I think they were getting close. They were already in field goal range.
Okay.
Then he throws a.
Yeah, I watched the Zach Taylor post game, so you're starting to sound a lot like Zach. Okay.
I didn't even watch it, so I'm just saying.
Like, he was talking about that. I mean, it's bad when the game went bad when you're like, look, man, we were only down 17-3, and then the wheels fell off. It's like, no, you're down 17-3. That's not good.
Yeah, because on that first pick six, the one thing I noticed is that he's just not seeing everything that you would normally see from
he didn't
quarterback.
Jake didn't listen to us. I told him, if you're going to throw a pick, just don't hit the guy in stride. Make him have to fall down. I mean, it's just, I don't know. This is the only thing I can think about with the Bengals.
They suck. The players on that team.
That's it.
Suck.
It's just they suck right now. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah, no, it's just one of the games where the wheels fall off and nothing felt good, and they just kept on having turnover after turnover, and they probably could have had a few more turnovers. They could not hold on to the ball. The special teams looked pretty bad early on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bengals have fully become the people used to talk about this. I don't know. I don't know if this is like a 90s way of talking, but like you used to talk about finesse teams. I feel like the Bengals have fully turned into like a finesse team, like they're good when things are going right, but like they're not like, they're just not like grinders, right? Like there just seems to be a lack of physical toughness. And I think the offensive line just makes me think of that. It's just like the offensive line just constantly is getting pushed backwards. Like even when they run.
Well, that's the problem. They're way too one-dimensional. They can't run.
But at some point in time, you have to have a little bit of pride as a professional athlete and win a few. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like it's like if you're I guess to analogize on basketball, if you're playing basketball against someone and they're better than you, like they're gonna beat you, sure, right? But like you don't want them to score 45 and you score 0 and them not break a sweat, right? You want them to earn it, right? Like even if you're gonna lose, you gotta score some points here and there, right? It just feels like the one-on-one matchups, guys are just consistently losing. Like it just feels like every single snap they're losing, and you got to win some, right?
Well, they were, but then they would have a devastating turnover.
Yeah, I never like watching it. Like from my perspective, it just felt like the offensive line was just getting overrun the entire game. Well, let me rephrase that, because I may have turned off the game at halftime. So first half only, Although it did look better when Jalen Rivers went in. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Was
was
that
about
in the
to
second half?
say. Yeah, he came in at the start of the second half, and
Yeah,
I don't know, he just
the
seems to
line
be way
held up
more
a little
spread
bit
out.
more. It
Yeah.
was just like there was more of an anchor in the middle. Like, oh, it stopped. Like the middle just stopped collapsing. Like he seemed to like hold the point of attack a little bit better.
Yeah, no, there was a few key plays where he was able to push the line a little bit forward to help get a first down in the second half a couple of times. So it seemed like when he came in, there was a little bit of a bump in performance from the offensive guard side. So
yeah, I mean, it's just like the thing is like all 3 weeks. I feel like I've been watching. Well, I definitely have been watching the games, but the feel for me is I'm watching these other teams' offensive lines, and like the Bengals sacks are usually because like like Trey Hendrickson beats his guy twice, right? And they get around the edge and they get a sack, right? But like the bulk of the line seems to be like holding up. Like the Bengals just look like someone's trying to hold up water in their hands and it just leaks all the way around it. It's I don't know what the answer is. It just looks really bad. And I'm just like, how did all these other teams build their offensive lines? I mean, like they just have guys everywhere, right? I mean, there are 5 positions on the offensive line, right? The Bengals don't have a single top 10 player at any of the 5 positions.
no, I mean it doesn't feel like it, but
No, I mean that's a fact, right? Like they don't have a top 10 anything on the offensive line.
yeah, I don't know. It was extremely poor performance by the Bengals, but if they don't have those turnovers, I think the game looks a lot closer than what it is. Because if you just look at the offensive performance from both teams, there really wasn't too much of a difference, other than the Bengals had 5 turnovers. So it's like,
yeah, but some of those turnovers are because like you're not pushing the ball downfield, right? You're just throwing easy dump off passes to guys that they're picking who you throw the ball to. So it's like, you have slow moving targets and you have just like that fumble with Fant. It's just like you dump it off to like the slowest skill player on the team and then they punch the ball out because he's like an easy person to hit, right? Like it just seemed like the Vikings dictated the entire game, like, I mean, aside from the interceptions and whatnot, I just don't buy it. I think that the mistakes were because they weren't dangerous. So the other side is like
it was
being able to be more aggressive because they don't have to worry about you being dangerous.
It was 17-3, I think, right?
Yeah.
Towards the end of the second half, and the Bengals had the ball, and that's the Noah Fant fumble. I think they were on the 30-yard line, and they were moving the ball. It looked like they were getting ready.
But how did the Bengals get that field position? Wasn't it a fumble as well?
Yeah.
Or was it was a punt and a block in the back or something where they got
the Fant, he fumbled, but then they returned it for
no. But like the plays leading up to the Bengals being in that position. Like it wasn't like the Bengals moved the ball themselves from like the 20. Like they got favorable field position either because of a turnover or like a punt with a like a block in the back, or like was that the fair catch interference one?
It might have been. Yeah.
I mean, my point is that when you're not challenging the other team and they're not afraid, they play faster, right? And it was just like you're sitting duck because they don't have to worry about securing the tackle because you're running like all short stuff, all things to like, who they want you to throw it to, and then they just run around and punch it out because you're close to the line and they don't have to worry about getting you down because the score's not close. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it was a fairly close game all the way up until that point, and then they kept
No,
on
it's
adding
not a
turnovers on
close
top of it.
game. When you're down 17-3, that's not close.
I mean, according to math, it is. Yes, it is because they
2
score
possessions.
right, but it's at the end of the half. It's 17-10, and then if you can find a way to hold them again, then you get the ball back.
You're presuming they score a touchdown. Like, I mean, I would say it's probably
that goes back to the point I was having, is that the defense was actually playing better than what it seemed. It was just that the Bengals had 2 turnovers that were either a pick six or a fumble that was returned for a touchdown.
Yeah. No, I agree that the defense.
So, like, you
defense
wipe
did not
those
play
out.
terribly. I'm
And
complaining about the offensive line.
Right. I mean, the offensive line played bad, but I don't know. I watched, usually I watch the other divisional games at the same time, and I don't think, as far as like the offensive line, like, for instance, that first interception is just like, if he would have just thrown it to Chase, that probably would have been a touchdown. Like, I was so confused. I was looking at Chase the whole time.
Yeah, but at the same time, what led up to that interception? It was a breakdown in the offensive line. He was running for his life.
Yeah, well, it goes back because there's no solid run game either. So it's like,
which is also an offensive line thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not in a position where I don't think they can't get it corrected. I mean, there's still.
I think Jalen Rivers is part of the answer, but I mean, I don't know that they could change scheme or anything, right? It's just that you need better players. Like, the guys that they have either need to get better or they need to get different players. So, like, you look at the offensive line, it's like, okay, maybe who's the left tackle again? Dylan Fairchild.
He's the left guard.
Left guard. That's what I mean. Maybe he can play better because he's a rookie, so maybe he'll just get better. Orlando Brown, I mean, he's just going to be what he has always been. You hope Amarius Mims starts playing better. But, I mean, it's just I mean, it's just frustrating because, like, in the second round, they could have gotten the top guard and they passed, and I think it's the second draft in a row that they passed on the top guard to get someone else. And it's just like, at some point in time, you actually need to, like, draft guys that are good, right? Guys that can pass block and run block, because you need to do both.
Yeah, if anything, if there's a theme with all 3 games, especially on the offensive side, is just it kind of falls on Zach. It's just, I don't think the play calling's there. Like, to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, so if you take it from my perspective and you think the offensive line's bad, I don't know why you constantly are doing play action passes. Like, I feel like you need to be doing more quick, short stuff instead of, slow developing things where the quarterback turns his back to the defense. I mean, I feel like you need to try something else, like maybe go 5 wide and just kind of dink and dunk, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the start was they did have one play with Chase where they did get him the ball in space, Chase Brown, and it looked good. And it's like, I want to see them do more stuff like that, where if they're not really having this success running, which they didn't have at all.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, you've got to admit that you cannot turn around and head it to your running back and run it off guard. They just can't, right? So I don't know why they're wasting downs on it. They should be doing something different. I mean, even Tony, well, I know you don't like Tony Romo and you don't have the sound on, but even Tony Romo was like, why do they keep running on first down? I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not working. It's the 3rd game in a row where it's not working, right? Well, no. When at the beginning of the year, it worked a little bit. And then when Lucas Patrick got hurt, it stopped working.
Well, I guess maybe that could be part of the answer too. I mean, Lucas Patrick should be coming back in a few weeks. So I think that could be a little bit of a bump to the run game.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if it'd be worth, because I'm almost to the point where you might as well just continue to start Rivers and just see what you got
I
with him.
agree. At this point, why? I mean, you've already got the franchise player on IR, so you need to be figuring out who's going to be the starter next year, because obviously you need to revamp the offensive line. I mean,
I
it's
think
just not
that's
good enough.
the problem with the Bengals offensive line. It seems like it's like they always find a way to make where the weakest areas are a little bit better, but then the other part of the offensive line where you hope will hold, like Orlando Brown Jr. and Karras, I feel like maybe they have regressed a little bit. Because
Yeah,
they're
that's what happens when players get old. I mean, it's just
yeah, but you know, in a way, you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. But I think this year they've kind of shown their age a little bit. So it's
yeah, but
like
they extended Karras.
just for 1 year.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well, it just feels like they can't ever fix all the holes at once when it comes to the
well, I
offensive
think I
line.
think that they're not admitting the scale of the problem, right?
Because
I
you
think
know,
that it's not as bad as it is, right? Like they drafted one guard. They probably should have drafted. They should have. I mean, say Dylan Fairchild's a good player. That's fine. That still doesn't excuse not taking the top guard in the second round. They should have taken both of the Georgia guards then. They should have taken him and Fairchild, and I can't remember the other guy's name. But there were more than they needed more than two guards, right? They needed like four guards.
yeah, I don't know if in that scenario you take the best rookie guard or whatever. I don't think that's enough to make the difference. You know, I think going into next year, I think the real, you know, going into the year, I thought maybe the first round pick for next year would be closer to like either a cornerback or whatever.
Mhm.
But now I'm starting to think it will be the left tackle, because if you could just tell Orlando Brown Jr. like he's getting beat like either on the inside or the outside by like faster individuals, and you know it definitely seems like he lost his step,
Mhm.
because before he got hurt last year he was playing really well. Like he was grading out fairly decently, and then he got injured, and then he came back, and then he never really like recovered
Mhm.
his grading, and then it seems like he's more to where he was after the injury last year than where he was before the injury, and I think that's one of the bigger setbacks. And part of the reason why it feels like there's a lot of pressure consistently.
Mhm.
And like I said, it's hindsight is 2020. They definitely should have done more with the offensive line. It's obvious now, but you got to be able to call plays for what you got.
Yeah, I agree. It just seems like there's just a denial about the issue, right? Like the issue is that the offensive line can't hold up. So
Well,
you need
and
to start calling plays as if you can't run the ball, and that as if you can't drop back and hold the ball for long periods of time.
yeah, and I think you even got to like put Jamar Chase in the backfield. You know, like get him closer to the ball to where when you do pass it to him, he's got a little bit more time to do something with it. So I think even him coming out of the backfield or something to that extent, just
Yeah, I
to
mean,
sense
it
a little
just
bit more
feels like.
about
I mean, I did like. They played a little bit more of. Who's that receiver that we like? I'm trying to
Tinsley.
see Tinsley. He looked like he got a few more snaps. He looked. I mean, he got open fast because he had that one. I was looking. He had one target where he was open, and they tried to throw it sidearm to him, and it didn't get to him. But like, I just feel like guys aren't getting open fast enough, and I don't know if it's the player or like the route they're calling, right? But they need to be thinking more like, you know, there needs to be an option where they could get rid of it within a couple seconds, right? Like this trying to hold on to it and throw it deep. You can do that, but you gotta get some first downs first, because the offensive line is in shambles right now.
Yeah, no, they definitely shown they can't be in a position, especially with Browning, where once you do become one dimensional, like that's where the game becomes 10 times more difficult. And I think having Burrow, he can kind of overcompensate on some of those things because this year I have been listening with the like the broadcast on and whatever. But I think Romo did mention like there were a few passes where, and I think part of it is the more experience that that Browning gets as a starter, he'll start to recognize some of the more of these hot reads. Because that was one of the things I noticed, especially in the first half, is that he isn't seeing everything that you would normally see as a starter. Because he definitely, like I said, I felt like he should have had a touchdown to Chase because he was basically wide open over the middle when he threw that pick six. And there was another one where I think it was on a third down, and I think they had some type of blitz, and Browning throws it to the right side of the field where, you know, if he read the coverage right, the hot read was actually Gesicki to the left, and he was basically wide open, and he threw it to where it was covered because of the pressure. And I think some of those things will kind of get ironed out over the year as he gets a little bit more experience, because I think those are some of the things that you see over the course of the year as you get more starts. So I think some of the things that Burrow would recognize, he hasn't been able to recognize. I don't know. It was a horrible game. I don't want to overreact too much to it. I mean, they played like crap. No one could hold on to the ball. It just seemed like they were shell shocked, especially after like the first three turnovers. You know, they normally you would like to see the team respond and tighten up a little bit more, and it just seemed like they progressively got worse from the second through the third quarter. And then after that, it just got so far out of the hand that, you know, it really didn't matter what happened once it got to like 30 to 3 or whatever it was at one point.
Yeah, I mean, so far this year, it just feels like the offense isn't really good at anything right now. They don't really have anything to hang their hat on other than, like, you know, guys are elite, and if you get them the ball, they'll score. But like when things start going sideways, they're not like, okay, well, we'll just stick to this style of play, and that'll get us some first downs, right? Like right now, it feels like nothing's working, and they were getting by on just like individual plays being just enough to get to a win, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're really going to have to dig deep and figure something out because we have who we have, and they just need to figure out those 2 or 3 plays that they can kind of rely on, especially when it comes to the run, where you can actually get positive yards. But, you know, I mean, I think we even talked about it. It was like you would think one of their big focuses was going to be the run game going into this game. And oddly enough, the Vikings looked like the team that I thought they were going to be going into the season. But then I guess the first couple of games they were not. I don't know. This game felt different than their previous couple of games. As far as the Vikings, it seemed like everything was going right for them, especially on defense.
Yeah, I mean, you get 12 points from your defense. 14 points from your defense. That's pretty good.
Well, and then I felt like all the other fumbles too were either return. Well, yeah, the one was returned for a touchdown. The other couple were either
and you get all those short fields.
And then I think the other one was at the 30-yard line. It was just like,
yeah, that on top of it, their defense was playing really well. So and it's just like the Bengals have like this habit of just like strings of 3 and outs. Like they'll just go ice cold for like periods of time. And there was a point in time where they were super explosive and it didn't matter.
Well, and I guess the series before they had the fumble return for a touchdown, I think they did go 3 and out. But they converted on the third down. It was a pass to Chase. Then it got called back because of a holding.
Right.
And then after that, they didn't convert, and they had to punt the ball. But yeah, there's just no rhythm. And when they do kind of find rhythm, that's when they turn over the ball, and then they lose all that momentum. And it feels like when they turn over the ball right now, especially the last couple of weeks, their devastating turnovers are being returned for either a touchdown or a lot of return yards. That fumble one was it was so weird because don't get me wrong, he did a really good job of like punching out the ball, but normally when you punch the ball out like that, it kind of bounces around and people have trouble picking it up. But it's like he punched it, and as he was like sliding down on the ground, it like rolled right back up into him, and it was like he didn't lose any momentum.
Right, and everybody didn't realize the ball was punched out, so everybody was still moving away. So he picked it up, and he had a lot of space, and then was able to get up and go. Right, because usually when there's a fumble, people see the ball, but I think like you're right, like he punched it out and then went right into his belly. So I think like if you're like some lineman tried to trail him down the field, but I think like because it looked like Fant still had the ball, like I think everybody was still moving away. So I feel like he got like a head start, and he's probably one of the faster guys on the field.
Yeah. Well, there was like a half a second where it's like, oh, Brownie might get him, and then basically it was like, oh no, you could definitely see the speed difference.
Yeah.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, that was just a bad camera angle.
No, I mean he had the angle, but it was just you could tell he had 2 mile per hour speed difference. Like it was just like,
yeah.
You could see one was more of an elite athlete versus like I guess a backup quarterback, but yeah, I don't know. It was such an ugly game, but really the only positives that came out of this was that some of the younger guys, I think Jenkins played really good. I think they had 3 or I don't think did Hendrickson get a sack? I don't remember if he did. I think Osai
well, I got the stats up. Let me see here. Sacks.
But there was one moment of time where
Osai got 1. And then Murphy got half, and Chris Jenkins got 1.5.
Okay, yeah. So I noticed that some of the younger guys were playing a little bit. As far as like Jenkins and Murphy, looked like they got some pressures, and then Osai got that sack. So they were playing fairly decent at one point, but then when the game kind of broke loose, and every time when you needed the Bengals to score to kind of keep it in the game, they just found a way to fumble it and give it right back to the other team. And then at the end of the half, like when they could have brought it down to a 1-possession game, not only did they get that fumble return for a touchdown, I think they gave up another field goal somehow. Like it was partly because they fumbled again. They fumbled at the I think Chase fumbled at the 50-yard line, and it was just like, man, they could not catch a break. But yeah, it was just it looked like they were shell shocked. It was just they couldn't do anything right. Even the special teams looked bad early on. I think Rico had that shank. Then he played a little bit better in the second half. I think because he had like a 67-yard punt and then I think a 70-yard punt in the second half. But I don't know. And if they were going to take a loss at some point, I mean, obviously they were going to lose, but it's better that they lose against the Vikings. And hopefully they can find a way to get the win next week, because I feel like because they're going to be playing Denver. So it's like I would rather win against a conference opponent because, we're going to lose, right? And I thought this game was going to be much closer than it was, but it definitely looked like 2 backup quarterbacks were playing in this game, especially early on. It should have been a lot closer game, but the Vikings.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Denver's a much better team than the Vikings, so I'm not
to be fair,
next week.
No, I mean, and Denver should have a good defense, but I don't think they're playing as up to their expectation this year either. So they look kind of shaky as well.
Yeah, well, I think that like Sean Payton's like one of the best coaches in the NFL, so.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not another ugly one like this week, but it's hard for me to see it going like it did this weekend. But I don't know. To me that should be the main focus, is that because they regardless they should still be tied for first in the division after this week, no matter what happens.
First place Bengals.
That's right. But yeah, I mean, they just got to focus on what's ahead of them and not. I almost feel like this is the type of week where you can't really look at the film and really learn anything. It was just so ugly. I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to have to change their approach.
Yeah, and try not to have so many turnovers. I mean, that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just overall, my feeling has been that like the NFL's kind of caught up to Zach Taylor a little bit. You know, the frequency of like the big plays has kind of slowed down. Over the course of the past 2 seasons, let's say, and I feel like you need to adapt, right? They need to find like, okay, the thing we like to do, teams are getting good at stopping that. So what do we have to counter that can also work?
Well, I think also
like that question is still unanswered. But
historically, the offense doesn't really start getting going until about this time, anyways. Like this is usually around week 5 and 6 before they're like, oh, this is how we're supposed to play football. Like,
yeah,
because I felt like last year was similar, where things kind of started off slow and everything looked kind of like a mess. And then they started hitting a lot of big plays. Like I felt like they did hit a lot of big plays last year. That was after like week 5 and 6, and that's when Chase Brown was starting to get going. Like it seemed like he could run and catch the ball. But yeah, I think it is partly their play calling must be predictable, because when they do run it, it's just like they already know our snap count and they're already like in the backfield hitting.
Yeah,
Chase
well,
Brown.
they did sign Desmond Ritter, so maybe he was like, hey.
Maybe that was a very underrated signing.
Yeah, that was like the signing of the year.
But then again, it's like, why didn't we get the same amount of information with that other guy?
Sean Clifford? I don't know. I don't know. I think Desmond Ritter was on the sideline, though, so maybe he had like a headset on. He was like, run.
Well, Cliff notes were not that good on our side, huh? So
yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, all the credit to the Vikings. They came out and played really well, and they looked like a solid team. But yeah, it sucks when it's not even competitive. At the very least, you just want to see a game where it is competitive and they actually have a chance to win. But it really didn't feel like at any point did the Bengals have control. And when they had a position to make the game close, that's when they had those big turnovers. And they kept on turning over the ball. That was another problem. They just couldn't tighten it up. It's just normally after the half, you would like to see the corrections, but it seemed like it kept on getting worse throughout the third quarter. And then there was no way to come back.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird, right? Because usually when a team pulls away and puts the game on ice, the game gets a little bit closer and the score looks a little bit more respectable. But like, Bengals never really turned it on.
No, they, like I said, they just felt like they were shell shocked the whole time. They just couldn't do anything, and then yeah, it just got to the point where they kept on getting the ball in very good spots, and it's just hard for the defense to stop even more, because it's just less margin of error when you're always within the 50-yard line or wherever they started.
Yeah,
too many turnovers. Yeah, way too many. It was actually unbelievable how many times I fumbled, because I think, I don't know, it was like 6 different players that fumbled, I felt like. Because P. Ryan fumbled, Jamar Chase fumbled, Fant fumbled, and then
Chase Brown fumbled.
Oh, yeah, Chase Brown fumbled, and then Cam Grandy fumbled. I'm like, what is going on?
Well, why are we giving the ball to Cam Grandy? That's really a Zach Taylor issue.
I mean, it wasn't a bad play. I mean, it got a few yards. It was just like they could not hold on to the ball. It was very sad to watch, very gut wrenching, because it's like they kept on shooting themselves in the foot. They didn't come with the same intensity as the Vikings. Obviously, Vikings, whatever they practiced this weekend and focus on was the perfect thing to do because there must have been something on the film where the Bengals players were exposing the ball because, to make that many different people fumble, they obviously saw something. So hopefully the Bengals practice ball security this week.
Yeah. Okay. So if you were the coach, would you do something to like motivate the team?
Well, like I said, the only thing you can focus on is next week, and really the biggest silver lining is that if you're going to lose anyone, hopefully it's an NFC conference team. Because when you start tallying the wins and losses, it becomes more important at the end of the year that you beat a conference team or a divisional team than a non-conference team when it comes to tiebreakers. So, yeah, this game was horrible, but if you can find a win to win next week, then everything changes again because then you're 3-1. You have 3 wins in the AFC, and if they win again next week, then they still should be number 1 in the division. So they could still hold all the cards. So it's still within their control. But it also sucks because how bad this game looked. I'm sure
you wouldn't do like some motivational technique where you take the film and you dig a hole and you bury it, or you got nothing. Just like, hey, it's at least it was a non-conference loss, so we'll be fine.
I think it's more about being in reality, I don't think there's no motivating because the season's already started. I feel like this is something you would do before the season, right? If you're going to motivate them. I think this is more or less just them having. They're professionals, so they just got to figure out how not to make those mistakes and play with a chip on their shoulder and play with a little bit of pride. And because obviously they're going to take a little bit of a step back. It's different when Burrow's not there, but that's not they should not be losing by this much. They have a much better team than what they showed this week. And I think
I would do like the Mike Tomlin thing. Remember when the Steelers offensive line sucked? Or like when the kicker would miss a field goal, like literally the next day they would have like an open tryout. Just look like having guys try out for like that guy's spot.
So where would you have open tryouts for then?
I don't know. It's like you could pick lots of positions. I guess you got to pick your scapegoat, right? And then you got to that's the group that you're going to send the message to. So I feel like you could pick offensive line. You could pick tight ends. You could pick running back. So maybe I work out some running backs or something, right?
Packers losing to the Browns. I'm telling you, the Browns defense is really good, like really good. Because I like I said, I kind of watched the other divisional games at the same time, and for most of the game, I think it was like 3-0 Browns versus Green Bay. But I just noticed I was like, man, their defense looks really tough, and they're very physical. And in Green Bay, they were playing really well. And the Browns were able to hold them to 10 points, I think. And then they blocked a field goal at the end of the game because Green Bay was about to score. They're about to go up to 13-10. And then somehow the Browns find a way to block the field goal. And then they get into field goal range and win the game, which is kind of crazy because I know there's a lot of pressure for their kicker since he, didn't really play that well against the Bengals. He missed 2 kicks. But I think he drills like a 55-yard field goal to win the game. So the Browns had a crazy win. But no, their defense is for real. They might have a top 5 defense when it's all said and done. But yeah, no, that was kind of a surprise. I think maybe people were a little bit too high on the Packers, and it is the NFL. It is a week-to-week league. That's why, when it comes to these type of games, you can't get too stuck on it. You just got to focus back onto the basics, and they just need to remember, hey, they are an NFL team, and they have really talented players, and to me, it's all on Zach Taylor, and he's got to figure out the right string of plays to keep that momentum. Because even with the line playing as bad as they are right now, they still should be able to put up points. It happens all across the league. It's just I think we're in a day and age where the defensive lines are so much better than the offensive lines as a whole throughout the league. And like once you start getting to your backup offensive line players, then there's definitely a big dip. To whereas a lot of teams, when they have a defensive starter go down, usually the person coming in backing up is almost as good as the person that's going down on the defensive line, whether it's like a defensive tackle or an edge player. It just feels like the last 5 years, there's way more defensive line prospects that are much better than the offensive line. And then not only that, I think it just takes longer for offensive line players to develop in the league nowadays. I guess because they pass a lot more, and you have to be a little bit more athletic on the offensive line. But nonetheless, it's Zach Taylor. He's got to figure it out. He's got to get the ball out quicker. Get the playmakers, the ball in space, and try not to be so predictable. Because to me, it's pretty obvious that whatever they're calling, the defensives know what's going on because they're pretty much in the backfield almost all the time, whether it's a run or a pass, and that's a problem. So, but even with that said, I just feel like if they didn't have the mistakes, they were going to score. It was just they had the most devastating mistakes you could probably have in any given week, and it all happened in one game. So hopefully they got all of their mistakes out in this game, or the majority of the big ones.
Way too many boomerang touchdowns.
Well, it's just they should have people open, like whether it's Chase, Higgins, or one of the tight ends. Like the defenses or as far as the play calling, they're outperforming what our offense is doing, and it really shouldn't happen with the amount of talent that we have, despite how bad the offensive line is playing.
Right. I mean, like looking over the stats, it's like T. Higgins had 2 targets. Like if you need first downs, I feel like you should be throwing it to T. Higgins instead of tight ends and whatnot. I feel like
and it might be just start throwing more jump balls. I mean, just do something.
Right. Yeah, just throw it on the sideline and have them make a play. I mean, I'd much rather that than I don't know.
Because our top 2 receivers are good enough once you start doing those, jump balls, is that you're going to start causing penalties, and then they're going to start playing a little bit more back.
Right. But it goes back to what you were saying before. They need to get into a rhythm. They just need to get a first down any way they could, right? Do the thing where you throw
I know you weren't that big of a fan
Browning over the line. Just anything to get a first down.
Like even that play to Fant, I know you weren't the biggest fan of that. Like I thought that was a good play because that was on first down. And
they did it backwards. It's backwards. You threw it to the guy that should be blocking, and you have the guy blocking that should be the one with the ball.
Well, with that said, had he not fumbled, that still would have been a 5 or 6 yard play on first down, and that would have been positive yards. But then it was like the worst possible turnover you could have because it was so rare how it happened, because in most circumstances and those type of plays, the guy would have been tackled usually right when he's picking up the ball. But it was
again, I think that it was just a hidden ball thing where, like, if you remember watching it live, like when he like the ball got punched out, and then Fant just absolutely got drilled by someone, right? Because he kind of stopped a little bit because he knew he didn't have the ball, which made him easy target to get just absolutely obliterated. But I think everybody on the field except for the guy with the ball thought that Fant still had the ball. So I think that was just like one of those weird situations. But in general, I didn't like it. No,
because I kind of remember seeing some of the Bengals players on the sideline kind of in disbelief watching him running for a touchdown, because they're like, you can kind of see like, how did he get the ball? And then him just running into the end zone. But
right. I mean, to me, it's like you've got guys that are fast and quick, and those are the guys who get the ball. So we got confirmation. I'm doing it. Got another person. Yeah. I agree, Trezen. It looked like he still had the ball, and that's probably what contributed to the touchdown. But either way, it's just like you got guys that you want to have the ball in space. And if you're to list the guys on the Bengals that, in terms of playmakers, that you want to have the ball in space, Fant would not be. He would be like what, 7, 8?
No, he's not necessarily going to be your first choice, but in a perfect world, you're just not going to fumble. So it's like,
That's true.
And he's like big enough and physical enough to where he really shouldn't fumble like that. But I guess supposedly too, I think he was under the weather because I think he left at halftime, and I think he said, or they were saying that he was sick or something like that.
I think Zach Taylor said he had a concussion.
Oh, he had a concussion. Oh gosh.
Yeah,
wow.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got it on that play because he got lit up because
he did. Yeah,
he wasn't. You like guys that play football know how to like protect themselves when they're getting tackled. And I think because he didn't have the ball, he was like, he kind of,
because he was probably more looking for the ball rather.
Yeah, he was like kind of trying to twist around and get back to the ball, and that's like he left himself open to get just popped.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Just an overall.
I still feel like they need to bury something at least, right? They need to like, or maybe again try out position players, cut someone, fire a coach, something.
In week 3?
Yeah. You got to find your scapegoats.
Yeah, I don't know. It's still pretty early. There's a lot of things that can change.
There's a reason why everyone knows what the phrase scapegoat means. It's because it works. Maybe even get a literal goat.
Well, we'll see if they have any changes. I'm sure they have thoughts in mind as far as things they can do as far as the roster, but in a weird way, with Patrick coming back, that could be a little bit of a boost because he seemed to be one of our better run blockers when he was in that first half of the first game. But that's another thing. It's just like, doesn't it seem like a lot of our offensive line tend to get hurt consistently? Like
I say that all the time because of their style of play. They just have to take a beating because they want to hold the ball and throw it over the top, and they throw it so much that like I feel like the Bengals need to think of like they essentially need like 7 starters on offensive line.
Yeah. But I did think when Rivers came in, that did seem kind of a little bit of he played a little bit better than what I saw from Reisner while he was in. But I did find it interesting that Reisner did go down with a calf injury, which is basically the same thing that Patrick had. So I'm thinking like, okay, it's got to be something that we're doing because it's like all the people that we bring onto the team get hurt. Like this is nothing new.
Well, I mean, could it be that we just sign guys and throw them out there?
Well, no, that's part of it. But I'm just thinking about all the people we've signed over the last 3 or 4 years. It feels like every person that we brought in, one way or another, has gotten hurt.
Well, I mean, it could be that they're bringing in like not the most athletic guys, not elite athletes. I mean,
that's part of it. But I mean, I know
older guys.
Yeah, they are veteran offensive line, but it's just like Lyle Collins and the guy that we brought in last year.
Yeah, because they like cheap players. That's part of it.
Well, and then even Orlando Brown Jr. I mean,
yeah, because they like guys that are cheap, especially on the offensive line. That's kind of like the Bengals' MO. Like, what is the average cost for starting left tackle? Like $25 million. They're like, but Orlando Brown will take 16, so he's our guy.
Yeah, I don't know if they re-sign him now. I feel like they're kind of now in a position where I think the first round pick next year probably should be the left tackle. Like, I think that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. Because if everything stays the same, you can definitely see that Orlando Brown lost a step.
Yeah, you can tell it's going real good because we're like excited about the draft in week 3.
Not necessarily excited. It's just always something that I kind of keep in the back of my mind. Like I said at the beginning of the year, I thought it would be more like a cornerback based off of how everything's going. But now I think the bigger priority is it's got to be the left tackle because it's like if any position that has to be slightly above average, it has to be the left tackle, especially on the offensive line.
Yeah, I would like to see them get at least one offensive lineman that is like top 10 in the league at their position, right?
Yeah, Yeah, no, they're
at least one out of the 5 positions, and then kind of work from there. But they do not have a single, and that's not even I mean, maybe that's elite. I feel like elite is like top 4 or 5. But I mean, if they could get just a very good player at one position, that might help a little bit.
especially at left tackle. If they can get that.
Well, yeah, that would be great. But I mean, I would settle for a top 5 guard.
Because I was even thinking, because if they were in a position to trade down the first round this past draft, I was always thinking, like, why not go for that Simmons, the tackle from Ohio State?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, he looked really good.
He chased down a guy.
Yeah.
He might have saved that pick 6. I think he got clocked at like 18, 19 miles an hour.
Yeah, he was moving. But I think that's kind of where their headspace is going to be going into next year. Because I think it's just whatever's going on with Orlando Brown, I don't think it can be corrected. I think it's just an age thing. And I think it's definitely showing this year. But with that said, I feel like it is still pretty early. I think they can correct a lot of different things. But it really just starts with the run game. I mean, they just got to figure out 2 or 3 plays that they can run consistently to actually get him positive yards. They can't keep getting hit in the backfield.
Yeah. I really like the way that the Vikings were running the ball. They like did the thing where they like toss it left or right, and they just look like the whole offensive line was just kind of shifting. Like almost everybody was
trying to do a toss play, the Bengals, but even then it's just like the defense seemed to always knew where the ball was going. Like there just wasn't any confusion on their end. They all knew where the ball was always going to be. It seemed like, so they were on top of it. But I don't think that's any different than any of the other weeks. I think it's just, for whatever reason, Zach Taylor is way too whatever. I don't even want to say vanilla, because I feel like part of the problem is that we have some of these plays are too long developing, and that's part of the reason why, Burrow's holding on to the ball a little bit too long, or whoever the quarterback is in, and they just need to get it out quicker. But then he's got to be more creative when it comes to those short plays that open the deep plays, right? And I think that's kind of why we're just saying, like, maybe they're just at a point, just throw it deep, just throw the jump ball. Because half the time our receivers are going to catch it, or they're just going to cause a penalty because they're so good.
Play to Higgins almost worked. I feel like the ball was a little underthrown. If he would have thrown that a little bit deeper, I feel like that would have been.
Which one? The one in the end zone, or the one that actually caused a penalty?
The one in the end zone.
Yeah. I was thinking it too. I think it was just a little bit more towards T's shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, because T, maybe they intended it to be a jump ball, but I feel like if it would have been more towards the back corner of the end zone, I feel like the defensive back wouldn't have even been able to make a play on it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I guess more of like a back shoulder throw where it's just more towards the receiver, because then Jerome is putting the position for the DB to possibly get a penalty, because they can't really get eyes on the ball, and they're probably going to hit the receiver before they can even get contact with the ball. Barely threw anything over 20 yards. No, not really. And a big problem is it's just like what Eric was saying was that even Romo was saying, like, they better not run it on first down, and they would run it, and we'd get one. And usually we'd get.
We were lucky we would get one. Usually we would lose a yard or two.
Yeah, you're right. It was either -1, -2. And if we got lucky, we might have gotten like 3 yards, but most of the time he was getting hit in the backfield. And like I said, even when they tried to do a toss, they got they got in the backfield so quickly that it was just like, I don't know. Are the teams like able to hear the offensive game plan going into the week? Because it just seems like every week the defense knows our cadence or whatever, and they seem to be able to jump, I guess the line at the time of the snap, and just in the backfield, there's just no hesitation. So, for me,
again, underrated signing of Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, I totally
watch for one of these new practice squad guys to get picked up by the Broncos. Broncos are going to like sign Clifford to the active roster.
Oh well, they can take Clifford. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. It's bad game. Hopefully, they take it kind of personal, and I don't know. For me, it's just getting back to the basics and getting your best players the ball, getting them the ball in space. I think they tried to do that this week, but just way too many turnovers. It felt like every time they were starting to do anything, they would have a fumble or an interception. I don't know. Was there anything you wanted to add to this game, or?
No, I'm ready to go get some dinner.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, I guess see you guys next Friday for the preview for the next game. All right, well, peace.